Thank you. All right, I like to make an entrance, and that's how I roll. So let me do this again, because I'm really going to start it over. How many of you work for a brand? Most of you. How many of you work for an agency? Okay, great. Awesome. So I'm Cristiano, CEO Bold Worldwide, at Bold CEO on all my social channels. So make sure that if you're going to ask me any questions outside of here, that's where you can find me. So this is me when I was 16 years old in the mid-90s. I wanted to be a pro skater. My mom's pretty happy that didn't really work out. And what was interesting is at some point I realized I was really good, but I was never going to make that as a career. And what I found was, even all the way back then, that content and video, to me, was a passion and was super important. And so I ended up creating, by the time I was 16, 17 years old, my first skate video. I had somehow convinced a distribution company to pick it up. I sold 5,000 copies and made like 40 grand by the time I was 17. So pretty, not too bad for a summer job, right? So I knew that was going to be my path, my career, creating video, creating content, and storytelling. And what was interesting to me is I thought I had it all figured out. Everyone told me, okay, great, now you go to college, you do things in this order, you slowly work your way up, and so on and so forth. I come from a blue-collar family. My mom's a teacher. My dad was in the Air Force. And right before I graduated high school, 17 years old, my dad died suddenly. And the irony of it is he died the day before his retirement, 33 years in the military. And it was fascinating because obviously it, really hit me pretty hard, especially being a senior in high school. But what it did for me, though, because I watched my dad, very intelligent guy, super hard worker, but he had put off all these amazing plans and things that he had that he wanted to accomplish and do in his life. Brilliant guy. But he worked 33 years for his family, never did all the things that he wanted to because he was going to do it when he retired. He literally died the day before he retired. And so for me, that changed the way that I viewed everything about life. All of a sudden, everything anyone had told me was now wrong because I'm looking at it and saying, wait a minute, if I play that same game and I go down this path that everyone is telling me to go down, and I hesitate and I wait, what if I don't ever get to do the things that I want to do? So I'm dropping out of college, built up a company right away, learned a lot of hard lessons along the way, nearly went bankrupt in the early 2000s, $250,000 in the hole, sleeping on my couch, renting out my apartment to somebody else in the Upper East Side. But figured it out. I realized that I was, putting it all, I was putting out my problems on other people, and that really at the end of the day, I controlled everything that was around me. 14 months, turned the whole thing around, did my first $1 million in business 14 months later after being $250,000 in the hole. Fast forward now, I have Bold Worldwide. This is my agency. We're a fully integrated ad agency. We do what works, and we say it like it is. The reason I told you my story is because it has completely dictated the way that I have built a company, and it has completely changed the way that I do business with our clients, which is we do not hesitate. We do not wait. We take action immediately and adjust along the way, and that is why my clients are seeing massive, massive success. That's why we're growing. We're now opening another office down in Miami this year. We're expanding very quickly because we're taking advantage of the change. We're not waiting around. And it's amazing how many of you are waiting. Social media is important. Maybe you're doing a little bit. Digital marketing is important, and maybe you're doing some of it. But you're kind of still waiting. And you know that you are. You know that you're hesitating. You know you're not going all in 100% and doing what needs to be done. And that's going to be the difference between being in business in 5 or 10 years from now and not being around at all. So I'm going to show you just a quick video reel, just like a minute or something like that, just to get an idea of some of the work that we do for our clients. Just video. We do a lot of stuff, but let's give you an idea. very proud of my team for doing a lot of that work. And obviously we work with a lot of brands as big as PepsiCo, all the way down to some tech and sports startups. And how many of you remember Sports Authority? Okay, not as big in Canada as in the US, but 450-something stores, I believe. They are no longer around as of this year. And what's fascinating about this story is I had been chasing down Sports Authority because I wanted their business for like 2 years, all right? We had talked to them a million times, and we worked on a bunch of different proposals and possibilities, and we just couldn't get through to the CMO to really push it through and do what needed to be done. Finally, after just absolutely like hounding him relentlessly, said, fine, I'll give you 15 minutes. Show me what you're talking about. So I talked to him. This is last year. And we talk about all the things that they're not doing and all the things that they are doing. The newspaper ads, the radio, the so on and so forth. And all the things that they're not really doing well in social. Okay? And they were doing it. But here's the difference. One of the reasons I want to show you the video. Because it's not just enough to do social media. It's not just enough to do digital marketing. You need to tell a great story while you're doing it. That's the difference between being super successful on social and digital and just complete garbage and a total failure. And so Sports Authority was being a total failure in this department, and they were putting the vast majority of their budget into traditional media. So I said my piece for 15 minutes, and the CMO said to me, he said, listen, Brian, I appreciate a lot of the things that you're saying, and I agree with some of them. But here's what you don't know about Sports Authority. We've done tests between print advertisements, Sunday newspaper, and Facebook, social media, everything you're talking about. And the newspaper substantially outperformed Facebook every single test. He goes, that's why we're never going to do it. That's why we're not going to push our budget that way. What do you have to say about that? I go, who the hell's doing your social media? No joke. 48 hours later, they missed that bond payment, which kicked them into bankruptcy. They no longer exist. True story. That's what happens when you hesitate. Do you know that in the US, since 2006, the top 500 companies, the largest 500 companies that existed in the US in 2006, almost 50% of them are gone today? It's 10 years. Almost 50% of those companies are gone. The biggest, most powerful, have the most resources, have the most time, the most people, the most money, the biggest marketing budgets. Half of them are gone. Because they're playing that same game. They're hesitating. They're not taking action. They're playing the game the way that it always has been for decades. You do certain things in a certain amount of time. You take 6 months to plan out a campaign. You film your commercial. 3 months later, you air it. And then you air it for 12 months, and you go, how did we do? I'm hopeful that most of you in this room aren't playing that game. But I'm confident that most of you are still doing it to some extent. Take a look at this stat. This is the time spent per day with digital versus traditional. It's in the US, but it's pretty much identical to the vast global market in Canada. Look at that. The blue line is digital, the black is traditional. Maybe do I even really need to say anything about that? It's pretty obvious. This is the average weekly time spent with over-the-top TV, meaning I'm not watching my program at 7 p.m. because that's when it airs. I'm using digital channels or DVR or whatever else that's on my ISP to then watch it when I decide I want to watch it. Look at that trend. That's not slowing down. Live streaming viewership of the Super Bowl. This one's interesting to me, especially in the US, but globally as well, because they get a lot of flack. Oh, well, there's not that many people that watched it. Look at the percentage jumps. Yeah, not a lot of people are watching it that way yet. But it's increasing dynamically every single year. And this is the penetration of paid TV in the US from 2010 to this year. It's declined every single year. People are cord cutting. It's like hot turn down. They're getting rid of that set-top box. They're watching Netflix, they're watching Hulu, they're watching YouTube. They don't want to wait around until 7 p.m. on a Tuesday to watch the thing they want to watch. They want to watch it now, or when it's convenient for them. TV doesn't make that happen. Digital does, social does. Another quick stat, the weekly time spent with TV among young adults, 2011 to 2016. This is now a younger audience, I believe it's under 25, no, 18 to 24. Look at how fast that's declining. This is the key opportunistic market that you all need, regardless of what industry you're in. You need these people to start thinking about your brand if they're already not. Because the people that are still watching TV, they're dead in 10 or 15 years. Think about that. What's really interesting is fine. Obviously, TV still has a lot of viewership to some extent, but viewership might be on. Is anyone actually paying attention between the commercials? As you can see, we work with a lot of sports brands and sports teams. And so one of the things, I also host a podcast called Sports Marketing Huddle, and one of the things that I hear all the time is, at least sports and news is safe. Okay, I get it. And on paper, that sounds great, right? Because, okay, well, it's a live game or it's live news. I have to pay attention to it. Nobody's DVRing the news. That much is mostly true. But let me ask you a question. When you watch the news or you watch sports or anything on TV, when that segment is over and the commercial comes on, how many of you take out your cell phone and check your email or go to the kitchen and make a snack? How many of you actually sit there and actively watch the commercials? Raise your hand. Be honest. Look around this room. No one. Now we're DigiMarcon, so hopefully we're all much more digitally savvy. But the reality is there's $73 billion with a B spent on TV ads alone in the US. Trying to reach all of the people who go make a snack, go to the bathroom, or check their email when they're paying to put their 30-second commercial on TV. No one's paying attention. No one cares. That's the truth. And what's worse, those commercials are the ads that their agency or themselves took 6 months to come up with the most brilliant idea that's going to get them to con. Damn, I don't know. I don't care. It's not my goal. Okay. Gold pencil, right? Took them 6 months to come up with that campaign. It's amazing. Took them a month and a half to film it, produce it, cost a couple $1 million. Now they're going to air it on TV for the next 12 months. By the time that crap comes on air, let's be honest, the entire global community has completely changed direction. They're looking at, they're like, what was cool 6 months ago ain't cool now. That's true. This is a fascinating stat. I wanted to include it. By 2019, this is from Cisco. We got a lot of data. By 2019, 80% of the world's internet traffic is video. And I showed this because, one, even the best brands that I talk to that have got it, they're doing social, they're doing digital, they're crushing it, 80% of their budget's there. Rare. But sometimes that happens. They're not telling stories. They're worried about all the tactics. You're worried more about how do I create some like remarketing scheme and like email funnel instead of how do I tell a good story that my customer actually cares about, wants to hear about, and wants to consume. That's where the win is. I don't care how many times you remarket to me. If you're Nike, I'm not buying your shoes because you chased me around the internet with a pixel and a cookie and threw ads in my face every 10 minutes on every device that I have. That's not why I bought Nike. I bought Nike because they have a great brand. This is the fascinating part, I think, of where we're at in this world right now in digital marketing, where 80% of the people are like, yeah, we know we need to do it, but we're a little behind the times. That's going to put you out of business. 1. 2, the rest of you who say, well, I'm the 20% that's doing it. 90% of you aren't telling a story. You got the tactics, maybe, but you're not telling me a story. You're not building your brand. You're not giving me something to care about. It's both. The ability to tell an incredibly powerful story in near real time, and then use the digital and social tools to deploy that, get the reach and get the attention, that is where the success lies. That is where the brands that are killing it win. You have to have both, or it doesn't work, or it only works to a small extent. And that's why Sports Authority went out of business. I mean, it had a lot of other problems, but that's why Sports Authority isn't around anymore. Because even when they tried the right tactics, they didn't have a story that anyone cared about. You must have both, and video is it. If you're not doing video, you're already behind. And it's going to continue to increase. Zuckerberg has invested in Oculus 360 VR. They have said it on every single earnings call that it is video first, video first, video first. Google, video first. Snapchat, video first. And most of you are kind of doing some video here and there. Because you're afraid that if you just constantly put out content and video, whether you're a personal brand, you're a big Fortune 500, or you're somewhere in between, you're afraid to tell a really powerful story because you might get it wrong and pull a Pepsi. Right? Kendall Jenner's not here, right? No. But let me ask you a question. Do you think Pepsi sales went up or down after all that attention when they were on every single headline of every news organization across the entire world? Don't be afraid of what happens. And guess what? Right now, it's old news. That was like a few weeks ago. That's already old news. No one cares. But yet, you're thinking about, well, what if we say the wrong thing and people get angry? Great, in 2 weeks they won't care. Learn from it, don't do it again, don't say that. That's where we are right now. I'm going to open up for questions in a minute. I wanted to get right into questions and have a little extra time because there's so many places I can take this. What I want to do is personalize it a bit for the people in this room and give real tangible examples and actionable advice. But before I do, I will leave you with this before we dive into the questions. What's going to make you successful is to stop hesitating on telling your real stories. And I don't mean like, oh, cool, we're going to manufacture something about our company that we think the public wants. Tell me the real story. Whatever company you work for, even if you're a solo entrepreneur, there's a reason that someone started that business. What was it? Why? Why is it still here? Is it struggling? I don't know. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's doing great. Are there people in that organization that have good stories, that have great backgrounds, that have been there for 40 years? I want to hear those stories. I don't care about, you can still make it look pretty and nice and beautiful, slick is nice, but I don't care about the actors in your commercials or your stock photo actors in your stuff on Facebook. No one cares, and I don't care, and you don't care. If you saw another brand do it, you'd be like, that's so fake, but you'll do it. Stop hiring actors. Use the people in your organization. Find the people. Don't try to find some influencer and say, hey, use our stuff and post a bunch of times. Find someone that's actually using your product or service. Why? Tell that story. Real stories that actually have human connection, and then use all these tools that we're talking about today to deploy that and get it in front of the faces of the other people who can relate to it. And don't just stop at one story. It's not enough to just put out one piece of content. The clients that we have that are not hesitant and allow us to move 1,000,000 miles an hour and just take action, we throw out content daily, every single day. And some of it's super polished, some of it's raw, some of it's on different channels. And some of it doesn't work at all, and sometimes some stuff we put out there, people hate. And guess what? We don't do that anymore, but the stuff people love, we do more of it, and more of it, and more of it, and more of it. You've got Nielsen data in your pocket. Put out a video, put out a story, throw it out online, and see what the reaction is. There's your Nielsen's data. Immediately, real-time feedback. Did people like it? Did they not like it? Did they watch it? Did they not watch it? Did they share it? Did they comment? What did they say? That's all you need to know. We're overcomplicating everything. So I'm going to open up to questions. Who has a first question? Yes. I guess we're going to get your mic.
What's your take on the right mix between like produced video, so taking some time working with an agency, versus more of the organic, raw iPhone, kind of doing it in the office?
Yep, I think it's both. You absolutely need to have both. So the polished, beautiful stuff, people appreciate because it means you spent time, money, energy, was thoughtful, as long as it's real. If it's overproduced and it's phony and fake with actors, it does not hit in today's age. But at the same time, don't be hesitant to do the real stuff raw on an iPhone, because people just want to see, like, what's the story that you have to tell? I'd rather see that story and know that there's something that connects me to your company than never see that and wait for the thing you're going to do 3 or 4 or 5 months from now because it took that long to do it. Tell me the story about producing the commercial. Like, find the things that are real that your customers actually care about. And with so much data, like, find out what do they care about? Why did they become a customer? Oh, okay, great. And then you'll see, and I wouldn't worry about putting out the raw, like, instantaneous stuff and some of it not doing well or even getting potentially some negative feedback. You just take that and learn from it. And again, immediately don't do what doesn't work and do more of what does work.
Thanks.
Welcome. Next question. Either one.
Love everything you're saying about video on social so far, but one of the things that we tend to struggle with, and I'm not saying the videos that we do produce are great, is the actual percentage of video that's being watched on our site. So
right.
We spend a lot of time driving people to our site, producing great videos, or sort of great videos.
Right.
And then, if you take a look at the number of people landing on a page versus the number of people viewing the video, it's pretty low.
What type of industry?
Education.
You're in education. So here's the interesting thing, and I know it's a challenge because you want to own your own data. I mean, you're doing stuff on Facebook, you don't directly own all of it. When you're doing stuff on Snapchat, you don't get any of it, so on. But here's the truth, and this goes back to some of the TV stuff I was talking about. People want to consume where they feel comfortable when they want to consume it. And so you sending them to your website isn't necessarily a bad thing, but now you're creating more steps and slowing me down to consume the thing that maybe had I just watched it, I would have gotten a connection, I would have cared, I would have thought that it was interesting for me as a potential customer. But if you start putting barriers in my way, you're going to slow me down, and I might not ever see it just because, oh my God, that took 4 seconds to load. Do you know if it takes more than 3 seconds to load a page, the bounce rate's like something like 90% higher? So all of those extra steps to just click, go there, load it, scroll it, hit play again, you're losing a lot of people. It's not bad to have it, definitely have it, but have it everywhere.
Have you ever had, I'm part of a global company and we get a lot of slack for, doing new initiatives. So you were talking about brands that can go a million miles a minute, send content every day. Have you worked with a company that's had tension between the Canadian office and their head office, wherever they are, and developing content for them? And how have you gone around that, or how have you explained it to them so that we can make content? So
yes, and we have clients that will not move a million miles an hour, and we're working towards getting them to move faster. That's the goal. Sometimes it's, you can't completely overnight change an organization. It has to come down from the top. They have to believe in it. The entire organization has to get behind it. You need buy-in from the top. So the companies that you can get buy-in all the way from the top down to the bottom is where you can move really fast. There's a lot of companies that you're not going to get that buy-in right away, and we deal with it all the time. We have a lot of clients that are over in Europe, and I find that they're the most, how do I say this, slow to adapt. Because here's the deal, right? The European markets are a handful of years behind some of the trends that we've already seen over here in North America. Right? Like, they're still like, well, yeah, but we don't have to worry about that. Our bounce rates aren't that high. People are still consuming this way. They're going into retail substantially higher. They just got a delay. that time bomb is going to happen regardless. And so what it's your job to do is to show the data. The data does not lie. And what I would do and what we do is find a way to do a test where, look, we're going to do this over a period of time. We have a very clear KPI. Like, how are we judging this as a success? Because just jamming a bunch of content out isn't a success. Mm-hmm. How are you, for whatever your business is, going to judge this as this is successful? And do it as a test, maybe even in a segmented area so that it's not touching everything, and then show them the proof. Because if you do it right, it works every single time.
Right.
Does that help?
Yeah, definitely.
Awesome. Who else has a question? Back there.
I love to get out the videos. I find it challenging to actually get the people involved, and so I just wonder if maybe am I overcomplicating things and I should just do more raw, spontaneous things until I get maybe people more into it, that kind of thing. I don't know how you get so many videos out. This is my question.
What business are you in?
I'm in a car dealership or.
Oh, absolutely. I would have. What is your position?
Creative marketing.
You're on the creative marketing side. I would have whoever in your organization has really great personalities that are like super charismatic, maybe some of the front office people, salespeople, whoever they are. I would have them, when they come out of a meeting, when they close a sale, when you get a new shipment of cars in, I would have them immediately, oh, here's the amazing thing about this. How great is X, Y, and Z? But don't just tell me, like, don't sell me a car. Like, just show me the personality of the people. Because people want to do business with people that they relate with, that they like, that they think are honest and authentic. So find those people in your organization, have them do 60 seconds, 90 seconds, 2 minutes. Don't overproduce it, don't overcomplicate it. And now all of a sudden you're telling a constant story and they are creating all of the content for you. You have the infrastructure already, and I think that's a great lesson. You already have the infrastructure. It's just we're still looking at that infrastructure the way that it was originally designed for. You've got, I don't know how many people work there, but you have dozens of content creators that are probably fantastic on camera sitting in your organization.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Who else has something? Right here.
So you mentioned about influencing in large organizations. So I'm with a large, very traditional, old school organization. So trying to move quickly is difficult. So can you share a few tips, maybe 2 or 3, on how to then influence so that we can drive that action and get those tests out there?
Absolutely. What industry?
Financial services.
Financial services, yeah, that's a tough one. It is, because guess what industry usually does well regardless of what's going on? Financial, right? Like, it's not like some industry, it's not like retail where they're like, oh my God, we just closed 75 locations last month. You don't have necessarily as much leverage there. But again, what I would really do, and I know sometimes there's regulation issues that challenge it, but I would find, like, maybe not for your particular part of the industry, but what I would do, again, is I would find, great, who can I get to buy in that says, okay, even if they're not totally sure about it, make it feel, look, we're just going to do this very encapsulated test. Here's what we're going to do. Here's how we're going to measure it. And then at the end of the day, I'm just going to show you the data, right? And because you can't force anyone to completely change. I mean, you heard the CMO of Sports Authority. They literally bought, to the day they went out of business, Sunday newspaper ads because they thought that was the best idea, right? Some stuff dies hard, but if you can just get a little taste, a little test, and just ride by the numbers, because at the end of the day, it doesn't lie. But what I would say to you as well, and I've seen this happen over and over again in bigger organizations, is make sure you have the freedom to operate, even if it's a small test, have the freedom to operate how it really should be done. Because what can happen, and I'm sure you've all experienced this, is you'll start to get, well, you can do it, but you can only do this part of it. And then the results won't be what the results should be. And then they go, see, we told you it wouldn't work. So find a part of the organization, really show them maybe case studies or other data of other companies, maybe some in your industry that are a little more progressive. Give the examples and give the data, because it completely exists and it's very hard to argue with numbers. I'm up? Yeah. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.